Hey, I'm Ziv, and this is On the Journey. Every week on the journey explores the intersection of wellness, spiritual inquiry, mental health, personal growth, and purposeful living through the eyes of the people we interview. And today I'm happy to meet Malaika. And Malaika is going to tell us about her passion and her journey. Hello, Malaika.
Hello, Ziv. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I'm really curious to hear about what do you do and why.
What do I do? I facilitate discovery. It's probably the best way I can describe it. I come from a family of teachers, so going back centuries, actually, my family has always been in the teaching profession. There are still teachers, a lot of them um, at the higher education level and below. So education has always been really important to my family. And I think I probably was running from it earlier on. Like it's the family business, right? It's a family thing that we did, and everyone was a teacher. And so I kind of thought that that's not what I was going to do. But it's interesting that every job I've ever had, somehow I wound up being the person who was doing the in services, writing the SOPs, training people, so your gift will find you, right? And so I was always the one. And I've heard you should be a teacher so many times that if I had a nickel, you know that saying, right? I'd be rich. But I just could not equate teaching to happiness a long time ago, like because I thought that it was a wonderful thing to do, right? A very full of service and that's kind of thing. But I just didn't think that that was really truly me, and I didn't know who me was, but I didn't think that that was it. And then as I progressed in my career and started doing different things, I noticed that I absolutely love the aha moment. Like I love when someone gets it. And I really, really love when someone who didn't think that they could does. Like that's the thing for me. So that's why I kind of reframed it in my head as facilitation of discovery, because it doesn't matter whether what age or what the industry is, people figuring out things is just exciting for me. So yeah, so that's what I do. I'm a facilitator of discovery.
I think I never heard this phrase before. So, like for me, it's genius, facilitating discovery. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Um, so, in what, like in like I know I just can't wait to hear about momentology, which I know we're gonna talk about, and you
Yeah.
already facilitated my discovery, discovering momentology. So, what is it exactly?
Momentology is the study and the practice with the emphasis on practice, right? Of staying in the moment, of studying the moment, of operating there, succeeding with what you have right now in this moment. So I sometimes call it mindfulness for the rest of us because it's sometimes mindfulness is a hard topic to grasp. It's kind of hard to get your head around. Like people hear about mindfulness and like, okay, I'm being in the moment. Is that like me? Am I sitting on a tree stump, like staring off, pondering the world? Is it transcendental meditation? Maybe they don't even know what transcendental meditation is, right? So it's just so many layers. And it's hard for every person to really grasp. And so, momentology, I think, is a more practical method of centering yourself in what is and developing what could be, and always having that how might I in the back of your mind. And so I'm also a human centered design strategist. I work in design thinking. And so design thinking and human centered design is all about getting to the crux of why we want what we want, and giving people their unarticulated needs. So one of my favorite quotes is from Henry Ford when he said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So we don't know exactly what we want, but we know how we feel. And so getting to how we feel actually gets us what we want. And so that's what human centered design is about. That's what design thinking is about. And in some strange way, that's kind of what momentology method is about, because it's individualized to every person. There is no cookie cutter thing. The momentology method is a way of acknowledging who you are at every moment and figuring out ways to calibrate what you need out of that moment. But it does not in any way, shape, or form um, represent any sort of everyone has to do this thing. There's lots of things you can do, but there's only one way to be.
Mhm. That's really interesting because when I think, like for me, whenever I think about being in the moment, the first name that pops into my mind is Eckhart Tolle.
Mhm.
And like for me at least, when I'm thinking about being in the moment, I feel like when I say I'm thinking about being in the moment, I feel like a contradiction, because when you really, really, really in the moment, you're not thinking, because you're all there. And then you talk about design thinking. How does that work?
So I believe that we are co-creators of everything that we want, right? I believe that we have the power to design the life that we want. But it takes a matter of understanding first what it is that we want. So we're fickle creatures, right? A lot of times we don't know what we want. We always, say, well, what is my purpose? What am I here for, right? And so if you don't know what your purpose is, you don't know what you're here for. Simon Sinek has to start with why. If you don't know what that why is, it's really hard to start, right? And so momentology is it. I help people to center in on being, right? The being is first, the who you are is first. So there are three major tenets of momentology. That's awareness, gratitude, and expectance. And so sometimes I say it's like at your age, AGE, but expected awareness, gratitude, and expectance. So awareness is the first step because you can't change something you're not aware of. You can't fix something you're not aware of. You can't do anything about what you don't see, right? Like you can't measure what you don't know. So when you think about awareness, it's like, okay, that's that thing in the back of your head. Like there's more to this. Like there's more to life. Couldn't I do this? That's all of the questions that come up. So it's almost like that childlike wonder of what if? What if I were X, Y, and Z? So if you're an accountant and you're an accountant because that's what you were good at and excelled in school, but you really don't love it, it brings no joy to you, then you start thinking, what if I could just go and do the thing that I love the most? And maybe that's bird watching. And maybe you think that that's ridiculous. I'm an accountant in Chicago and I want to be a bird watcher in California. How in the world is that going to happen? How do I get from here to there? And so momentology teaches you how to enjoy the journey. So no pun intended on the journey, right? But it teaches you to enjoy the journey and to embrace the becoming rather than the destination.
Hmm. So does it matter if I enjoy the journey and I'm becoming and I'm into the being? What what's the importance of the destination?
The destination is it gets less and less important, but you can't lead with that, right? Because most people think that the things that they want are what they want. And so if you tell someone from the beginning, if someone comes to you and says, I need your help and I want to have this thing, and you tell them, no, you don't, or you tell them that thing doesn't matter. They're already off. What do you mean? Yes, I've always wanted, this is the thing that I want. Well, you don't realize until you're on the journey that the thing that you want was not the most important. I mean, you could get it and that's great. But then when you get it, then what? Maybe you want something different. And people are so afraid of being wrong. Well, what if it's not the right thing? And there is no wrong thing. They're all experiences. And it's more like data, right? So you don't ever fail. You just learn. You just say, okay, this didn't work out, and I'm gonna like pin this for later. It's things that happen if you if you think of them more as like data points, if you think of them more as like things to know, information, and then that helps you to calibrate where you go next. So every time something happens, you recalibrate. Every time something happens, you recalibrate. The destination becomes less and less important, but you don't know that until you get involved into the journey.
So it really resonates with me, and I can't agree more. I tell you what I hear from you and from others, and not even, but I'm for sure I say it a lot. So if someone would come to me and would say, my dream is to be an actor, and when I will be an actor, I will be happy. If I would tell him, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you want. It's not. It's totally not true that you will be happy when you will become an actor. You just think, let's go on a journey. He will probably stop listening to me at that point.
Right.
So I have to say, of course, an actor. What an excellent idea. Let's go on a journey, and then through that journey, when if you really do it, you truly do it, then you realize that happiness is internal and you need to be in the moment. So in a way, for
Absolutely.
many therapists, coaches, etc., the okay, I'm going to be a bit extreme, yeah, but in a way, the result or the destination is a marketing thing. Okay, we know
Yes.
that
Yes.
without it, no one will move. So we need to say yes, 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 we're going there. but we actually know that we're going here.
Yes, that's a beautiful way to look at it in terms of, especially for business, and as if you're a coach and you're trying to. So a lot of times as coaches, we struggle with knowing or seeing the greatness in others before they see it in themselves, right? And so we know that the thing that they said that they want isn't really what they want, but they don't want to hear that, and they'll never listen to us if we tell them that, like you said. So, for example, it's kind of like that carrot dangling in front of them. So say you have that carrot dangling in front of them and they're going after that. They don't know that there's a field full of beautiful roses and tulips, and there's a stream, a bubbling stream, and there's wonderful things to be seen along the journey, right? So you have to get them to say, hey, you know what? At the end of this rainbow, there's this pot of gold. We're going to get to that pot of gold. But then along the way, you point out, oh, look at those beautiful roses. Oh, let's sit by the brook. So it's your job as a coach to help them to see the things that are in between that are on the journey. But you're absolutely right. If you just try to sell them the journey, they're not interested because they don't think that's what they want. Um, I had a client one time, and she said that she wanted to make six figures, and I said, great. And she said, I want, $100,000. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to make. And so the interesting part about it was she didn't really want $100,000, and I knew that when she said it, but we had a journey to take, right? And so what she really wanted was to travel. And she wanted the flexibility and the ability, and she thought therefore the money to be able to do that. So, through a series of conversations, we talked about, well, what if you only got paid $80,000, but your job gave you a voucher worth $5,000 every month and the time to take off and you could go? Would you be happy? And she's just like, that would be awesome. But wait, but it's not $100,000. And she's like, yeah, but if I got to go to Turks and Caicos and this, that, the other. So just starting to have her feel what it felt like to have what she desired versus the thing that she thought was steadfast in her mind. Well, no, of course I have to have $100,000. So that's an example that we all do that. We do what my mom says. She calls it clothing your blessings, where you think you want something and you decide how it's supposed to show up. And that's not the way to real happiness. Because like you said, you're not going to be happy when you get something if you're not already happy here. Happiness comes first.
So how do we become happy here? What do we really need?
So in the momentology method, one of the things that I teach is once you have an awareness, right, there's an acceptance. You have to accept. It's not a defeatist type of acceptance. It's not like, oh, well, this is just life and there's nothing I can do about it. It's more of a great, here's the starting point, and let's see what I can do to move the needle, right? And so in order to get from, I say things are created three times. First in your mind, then in your heart, then in your hand. So head, heart, and hand. And so in order for it to take that journey, you have to first conceive of it. You have to believe that it's something that's achievable. Because first we look at things and we say, oh, well, I mean, sure, Elon Musk can do that, but who am I to do so and so, right? So first, we don't know that things exist. Then we know that they exist, but we don't think it's possible for us. So the next step is to believe that it's possible for us through kind of a series of like small steps throughout the day of changing your habits, changing the way you look at things. And secondly is having gratitude for the things that you have, because you'll never have more of what you want until you want what you already have. And it's difficult sometimes for people to do that because we can think of all the things that we don't have, right? And we can focus. Like if you give somebody a list and say, okay, I want you to make a list of everything that you don't like, and then make a list of everything that you like. If you've ever been in customer service, people can always find things that they don't like. So that's a journey in and of itself, getting you to change your mindset from one who complains all the time, who sees the negative, to one who sees the positive. And the more you see positive things, the more positive things there are to see. And so that's also a journey. So these are all like little miniature journeys. They're all very internal. They happen within yourself, within your spirit, within your mind, before you can actually articulate it into the tangible world. And the last part of momentology, the last state of being, is a state of acceptance. Of expectance. And so that's also difficult for people because there's this thought of like, I shouldn't expect good things because I'll get disappointed. But what you focus on expands, and what you expect, you get, right? And so people don't want to buy that either because humans hate accountability. And so we can't believe that we got exactly what we expected. But if you think about wanting a new job and you're like, okay, I'm going for this job. And the minute you go for the job, you put your name in the hat, you start thinking about the other people who are more qualified than you are, or, any of these bad things that could happen. And then you don't get the job and you go, I knew it. What do you mean you knew it? I thought you said you really wanted the job. So if you knew it, then you were already thinking in the opposite of what you said, right? And so how about you just expect that you do a good job? How about you just expect that you enjoy the work that you do? So if we change the things that we're expecting, we find less and less disappointed because we're not expecting these tangible outcomes. We're expecting feelings. We're expecting states of being, and it's a little bit hard to talk about in a kind of a quick version, but that's really what it is. It's changing your expectations so that you're not disappointed and you're grateful for everything that you get and you seek and do more.
I agree. I agree. I think that one of the things is that we are so afraid to get disappointed. Like the fear of disappointing is so big that we are willing to to lose, but not to feel the difficult sensations and emotion of failure. So like I won't dare to expect something amazing because I'm so afraid to be disappointed instead of
Yes,
daring expecting everything and then being disappointed as part of the journey.
right.
We're so afraid of pain.
I'd rather be right about being miserable than being wrong and and go out and try, right? That's just kind of, we're so afraid. And the fear is another thing that I work on with my clients is I I work on them to eliminate fear-based decision making. And so a lot of times we don't realize how many times we make decisions out of fear of loss, fear of not getting, fear of embarrassment, fear of dot, 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 right? And so it is so freeing to make a decision and not care about the outcome, because the detachment is what gives you the power. When you are attached to things, when you think something has to happen in exactly the way that you say it does, that is where the disappointment comes in, because we do not have control over lots of things. The only thing we have control over is our response to things. So things are not good or bad in and of themselves. And people say sometimes that sounds silly to them. Well, of course, if someone dies, that's a bad thing. You can't ever say that's a good thing. How could that not be bad? The death is not a bad thing. It is a transition from a body that is living to one that is not, it's organisms. It's hard for us to decompose our thought that far down, right? And to release those type of feelings. But one of the examples I give is, say you have two women who both lose their mother. No, so woman A loses her mother and she's inconsolable. She can't get it together. She loses her job. She goes into a deep depression. Things are just not right with her, right? Woman B, she loses her mother. She sets up a charity in her mother's name. She sends out roses to all the people that her mother ever touched or loved. She does very positive things. So if the death of one's mother was a thing that was negative no matter what, and that there was nothing else to be done, they both would have the same experience. Now, there are lots of reasons why they might have had different experiences. Like maybe the second woman always told her mother that she loved her, and it was vice versa, very reciprocal. She had a good relationship. Maybe the first one had unresolved issues. So that, yes, there are a lot of things around it, but the point is that it does not ever have to be the same. And you can take anything and make goodness out of it and find goodness in it. It's just a willingness to do so.
Definitely, definitely, Malaika. I agree, and I really wanted it to hear more, but we are already way, way beyond our our time limit. I was so hypnotized. So I want to say, like, to thank you, to tell you I'm grateful for this interview and all your knowledge, and about teaching me and our audience about momentology. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yay.